Hello. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Teresa Remick, and I'm the Managing Director of the Page Theater at St. Mary's University of Minnesota. We're located here in Winona this evening, and we're happy that you're joining us wherever you may be. We're so thrilled that as part of our virtual Driftless Dance Festival, we're able to bring you James Sewell and Eve Schulte from James Sewell Ballet with a selection of ballets and clips that they've experienced throughout the company's history. We have a lot of fun stories and videos to share with you this evening, so thanks again for joining us. I want to let you know that this activity has been made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Southeastern Minnesota Arts Council, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. This project has also been supported in part by a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. We'd also like to thank our official media sponsor of the Driftless Dance Festival, Wisconsin Public Radio, as well as Visit Winona and the Xcel Energy Foundation. You'll see throughout the evening tonight that watching on Facebook or YouTube, you will have the ability to comment and ask questions. And we encourage you to do so throughout. We will be taking questions at the end, but anytime a question strikes you, feel free to go ahead and type it on in, and we'll be tracking those all throughout the presentation. We'll also be sending you a short survey in the questions at the end of tonight's presentation, and we would really appreciate your feedback as we look to the future of events, whether in person or online. And now I'm going to bring in Eve Schulte and James Sewell of James Sewell Ballet, and they'll be getting our program started. Welcome.
Thank you, Teresa. It's great to be here tonight. We are so excited to be here with you live streaming as opposed to live. We were so disappointed not to be able to be there this spring, but we're glad to be this way and looking for the future when we get back down there. We're going to be sharing a number of clips with you, and glad to have Eve Schulte with us. Eve?
Hi, yes, I have been a dancer with the company since 2009, and I've been artistic associate more recently. It's been a lot of fun pulling this retrospective together and remembering pieces that I've performed over the years and learning some new ones along the way. And we're going to be taking a look at 6 different pieces and sharing those with you tonight.
Yeah. So just a little bit about James Sewell Ballet. You know, the company, we're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary year, which is amazing to me that we've made it this far. And it's been fun to look back at this different collection of things. But the first clip we're going to show to you today is a piece from a ballet that was originally called Chopin Tributes. And it's funny, everybody thinks about Chopin and ballet as going so well together, and they do. And ballet class is often done to Chopin, but I actually didn't choreograph any Chopin until I think something like my 60th, 70th ballet. It was well into my career. I think because I had this image in my head and how Chopin was choreographed, and particularly with classical ballet. And although we are a classical company, we do a classical ballet class every day. We don't always just stick to that when I'm choreographing. I like to bring in other elements, and somehow I think what I saw in my head and what I saw everybody else doing with the Chopin didn't match. And I remember there was one day I was in the car and the Chopin came on, and I started getting these images in my head that were mine. And all of a sudden, I fell in love with the idea. And then I made a ballet to Chopin, and then I made another one. And so it's been fun to explore that. And so what we're going to show you, the first clip is an internal, is I think the 3rd or 4th section of the piece. And to me, it was just this beautiful cyclical music. And I just saw the images of these arms moving with the grace of the music. And this is sort of what came out of it. And we internally, we call this part arm jive. So here we go with a little arm jive.
It's funny, we've been performing that one on the road recently, and just hearing it now again with that live pianist we were so fortunate to have. He had a dinner date to get to. He was playing really brisk.
Playing fast that time.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful when you have live music for something. It adds an energy, but it's sometimes an energy we can't always predict. It's what keeps everybody in that specially vital place that makes the performance special. The next one we're going to share with you is another kind of music. Now, people think of the Chopin with ballet, but what I love is exploring all different kinds of music for ballet, and how every different kind of music makes my body want to move differently. A different rhythm or a different lilt kind of infects the inside of me and makes me want to make a different kind of piece, which is always fun to not get kind of stuck in the same rut. So I did a piece called Made in America, and the theme on that one, rather than a long story ballet, I often like to do collections of shorter dances. So this was about a 45-minute work where we took, I think, 9 different popular songs or different American music forms. So we're so lucky here in America. We have jazz, and there's blues, and there's bluegrass and country, and there's so many different kinds of innate American music. So I wanted to take many of those and just make a section of each. So there's nothing much more American than the Star-Spangled Banner. And so when they're thinking of putting this together, that seemed like a great place to start. And I found this wonderful recording of a barbershop quartet. They were the world champion barbershop quartet. I think they were from Texas back at the time when I choreographed this. And they had this amazing version of the Star-Spangled Banner. So this is our homage to that. And this is, you'll notice the video quality is a little bit, it's from a while ago, but we wanted to bring this out for you guys to be able to see tonight. So here we go with Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, land of the free, and the home of the brave, America,
So that gets us off and going. And we often find the audience stands up for that one. We get a standing ovation at the beginning of the ballet, and sometimes at the end as well, but it's fun to kind of launch it off with that one. So another one we're going to show you from Made in America is the bluegrass selection. Although I have to say, when I was listening through different bluegrass, I really found so much I wanted to choreograph. I still think I'm going to do a bluegrass ballet someday. But Eve, this kind of, riffs on ballerina competition.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, we're always conscious of giving people their tutu fix, even though a lot of what we do doesn't necessarily fit the preconceptions people have of ballet. But we think this one kind of meshes between the really fun, surprising, levity-filled work that we do, as well as getting them some really intricate point work and the drama of ballet. So this one is to the Dueling Banjos, the Eric Weisberg selection. And yeah, here we go, Teresa. Thank you.
So it's a little dramatized, but captures some spirit of fun competition in ballet class. So the next piece we're going to talk about kind of takes a little different turn. This is a piece to some German leaders, some German songs. And I did a piece that was in the 7th section. It was kind of the story of two people who had just were recovering from the fallout of love affairs and kind of found each other, and kind of a little bit of a rebound romance kind of dance that came together. But it starts out with solos for the man and the woman, where they're kind of exploring. They're really about that sense of loss that you first have before you're ready to kind of be open to anything else happening. And I have found in choreographing that to capture what feel like the most emotional places, oftentimes in life, when there's something upsetting, it's not just, we don't just feel one thing. If we're really upset with somebody, it's usually somebody that we love that can get us that upset. So we have the love, we have the hurt, we probably have some guilt around that. There's often many emotions that are going on at one time, and people talk about being like torn up inside or feeling all, jumbled. We have this sense of being divided internally and emotionally. So in dance, you could kind of do one and then the other. But I kind of have found by having these multiple things happening at one time, where you have sharp feelings happening in the body at the same time that there's something smooth, that to me externalizes more what is an internal experience of that emotional state. But to do that is something, when I had this idea and started working with this thing, I realized how tricky it was to actually be able to divide your body in those multiple ways. So one of the things we're going to do before we start showing this next piece, I want to have you guys are going to try a few movements. And I'm actually going to break down one of the movements is actually in the piece. So you're going to see in there, one arm, this is about halfway through. One arm would be going every 2 counts. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. Another arm is going up and down every 6 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. To get those together, you get 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the legs are doing in a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. If you put that all together, you got 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that step is complicated to do, but once you get it in your body, it's like riding a bike. If it goes from the brain into the body, it becomes easier. But to feel a little bit of that, I wanted to have you guys try. We're going to just try getting going in one hand. I want you to get going. Let's actually get both hands for a second. Lines going up and down. Okay, so we have that. Now let's make squares with both hands. So it goes out, sideways, up, and in. So we get the squares going. Now what we're going to do is just going to divide those, and one hand is going to do the line up and the down, and the other hand will do the square. So it goes like this, and 1, up, and all of a sudden these two things that were easy separately become tricky when you try to put them together, and that's normal. If you're having trouble with this, that means you're normal. And one other, when you start to get different feelings. And that's a common thing in ballet. A lot of times there's very fast footwork that's going on and smooth arms on top. Or the step I just showed you, there's this fast, really sparky thing with the legs and these different speed patterns in the arms. So this is nothing where we can try putting a smooth circle going in one hand. And we had our square, and you see if you can add a sharp square along with the smooth circle. And this one's even trickier because they've got different feelings. But again, if you sit and work on this long enough, it gets into the body and it becomes easy. But that can take a little while. But hopefully this gives you a little sort of window into what it can feel like to kind of the frustrations that we work through in order to be able to get our bodies firing in symphony. And Eve, what is it like? This is a dance that you've performed quite a bit, although we don't have a recording of you today doing it. What is this like for you to do as a dance?
I'm one of those people that really enjoys the challenge of putting choreography together with an experience and emoting quality so that it transcends technique or steps or counts. I typically, when I'm learning a piece, you'll start with counts, but then I try to let go of those as quickly as possible. So there's still accuracy and precision to the work. but it's so beyond anything that someone can comprehend from a technical place. It's just something that streamlines to the heart, and they comprehend it in that way rather than technical stuff.
Yeah.
I will just mention this one's title is Pain's Pulse. It's from one of the earliest ballets that we're sharing tonight from 1991, a ballet called Love's Remembered. And the composer is Franz Schubert.
Great.
So, folks, I will just encourage you. We are tracking your questions, so if you have any, a reminder to go ahead and post those. We'll get to them at the end of the presentation.
Yeah. So one of the things that people don't often associate with ballet is improvisation. And I think until the last 10, 15 years, it really was not very common at all. And it's something that we started exploring around that, 15, 20 years ago. We were kind of doing that fairly early on. And I found it really interesting to it changed how I thought choreographically, because really when we're doing an improvisational dance with a group of dancers, we're not trying to just get out there and do whatever we can. We're really trying to figure out how do we create a well choreographed dance in the moment. So we're sharing structures, we have ideas. It's like having a conversation with a subject, and with the, it evolves. It's not just sort of random things you think up to do. And so that's something that we've had a wonderful time exploring over the years, and also used it as a way to generate an experiment with material quickly as well when I'm choreographing. But in this next piece, is an example of some of that in there. And it's also an example of another piece, another kind of music. And this is the Dessa, who's a spoken word and rap artist here from Minneapolis, who's having just kind of breaking out all over the country and world these days. So we're really happy for that. And actually, I got to know Dessa more. Actually, one of my dancers in the company, Corey Goey, he was a huge fan of Dessa. And he heard that she was having a CD opening party at First Avenue this afternoon. We were rehearsing. Our studios are just a block away from there. And so over the lunch break, I guess she was at the 17th entrance to having a signing thing. People could pop in and meet her. So we popped over there, and there was nobody sitting at the table. It was a lull, a lucky lull. So we went over and sat down and got the album and talked to her and started talking about the company and the ballet. And, she got really interested, and, we collaborated on doing this ballet together. And she actually had us sort of coming in on one of her music videos that she did at one point. And so it was really fun to be welcomed in by her and to have a closer connection in creating and being inspired by her in a different way, had I not been able to talk with her and explore this music. And so that was really fun. So what we're going to see is a trio from we call the ballet into the spin. And this trio starts out, and about, probably like 30 seconds in, there's a section of time, probably about a minute long, when they are improvising. And good improvisation doesn't look improvised. I mean, and if you can't tell when they are and when they're not, that's great. That means they're doing their job. And it's also okay if you can see people making decisions. I love that, the vitality of seeing somebody make a choice and do something that happened in that moment for a reason, in that music and in reaction to each other. So there's a bit of that in there, and there are little bits throughout. I like playing with the structures because I realize there are obviously things that will never happen if you don't set them. But there's also a kind of being and a kind of aliveness that happens when something is not set, and certain types of reactions that if your brain is involved in trying to make it happen, it doesn't happen in the same way. That if you can set somebody up in an improv structure to have a particular kind of experience through movement, sometimes what comes out is actually more powerful. So this is an example of a piece of mind where it sort of flows in and out of choreographic structures and improvisation. So I hope you can have fun sort of playing the game of trying to see, which is which. And Eve, do you have any other thoughts on this one?
For whatever reason, I probably shouldn't talk about it because we don't have a clip prepared, but this ballet also included a section with a hula hoop, a dancer doing beautiful things. I won't say tricks because it was more artistically woven together than that, but she was doing things with a hula hoop. And we were also, along with improvisation, using our ballet informed bodies. There were other parts of this that were fusing in hip hop or fusing in other dance forms that I found really compelling. And it kind of all fit under this cohesive umbrella of Dessa's music. So that's what I would add.
Yeah.
All right, Teresa, let's have a look.
We sit in the car outside your house, and I can feel the heat coming down. I go to put my arms around
see that again. So the last clip we're going to show to you today is from a ballet called Moving Works. And it's a piece where kind of what we talked about, the sort of complex coordinations, I tried to kind of see where I could really develop that. Each section kind of explored a different aspect of that sort of advanced coordination. And what we're going to see is the final section, where I was trying to sort of put it all together, kind of take aspects of all the different sections and kind of bring them into one large thing. Now, when I'm making ballets, sometimes I have an idea that I'm trying to find music for. Sometimes the music inspires me to make it. And actually, in about 10 occasions, I can't find the right thing, and I've actually written my own music for the ballet. Each of them have their challenges and their advantages. So this was kind of a combination. For this section, I knew what I wanted and feeling, and I couldn't quite find the right thing before starting to make it. But I had several pieces that had elements that I wanted. So one of them was this driving power of the kodo drummers of Japan. They have those giant drums, and it's just this amazing. They have this sort of guttural chanting, and the pounding of the drums. And the other was a singer called Baba Mal, who was doing a Muslim call to prayer. And it had this just soulful, just this cry and this just beautiful soaring voice, and also some percussion, but lighter, that was mixed in with that. So what I did, I got it into my computer, and I mashed the two together. I layered them, brought them in and out, and put the two, so I was able to kind of get both of these feelings that I wanted. And I was happy how it came out. And so I hope you'll enjoy that aspect of it, and enjoy the finale of Moving Works. Eve, did you have anything to add around that? Or?
You say it all comes together in this finale for the work itself. Yes, and it also feels, the whole ballet feels like it all comes together. It's got athleticism, musicality, challenge, storytelling, and innovation on the art form, and that just feels like all those components are peppered in everything that you choreograph. I think we can talk maybe a little more in the Q&A, but you and I both come from backgrounds of having a lot of different interests growing up and being able to dabble in a lot of different sports and arts and all sorts of things, and dance feels like the coming together of all of that, and especially in this work. Moving Works from 1996 was the first time you choreographed it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Teresa.
fun watching the end of that. I can't help but remember that feeling. That music is so powerful, driving, and the feeling you're exhausted by the end of that whole piece, but that it brings you through it, and it feels so good. There's this like catharsis. You get done, you're exhausted, but it feels wonderful. So I just was able to kind of relive that a little bit watching it. Yeah. So that's all the clips we have for you. Thank you for watching. And I think we do have a few questions to get us going. And I hope that you all, as we're talking, you'll think of some more and want to write them in, and we'll get right to it. So
thank you so much. That was just lovely, just so wonderful for us to watch, and I'm so grateful that you were both willing to make this work and do this for us this weekend.
Our pleasure.
I was wondering, so maybe this is a twofold question. We do have a viewer question wondering about the name of the piece to the song by Dessa. That was called Into the Spin, correct? And then maybe this is kind of a two-parter, but
can I add something with that? So just in case, the ballet was Into the Spin, but if you were looking for the song, it's I'm Going Down on her Parts of Speech album. There you go, perfectionist in the room.
And I think Going Down was the name of that particular tune, wasn't it?
Yep.
Eve? I think
Yep.
as well.
I'm Going Down is the song name on the Parts of Speech album, featured in the ballet Into the Spin by James Sewell.
So that actually sparked a question for me. I'm seeing a really common thread throughout some of the selections that we saw, such as the levity of dueling banjos, the use of musicians such as Dessa, who's so wildly popular here in Minnesota. And I know a couple of years back you had a piece that incorporated some boxers. And I'm wondering if how you think about ways of incorporating more popular culture as a way to make ballet accessible, particularly for Minnesotans or a Midwestern audience.
Part of it, I think, for me is just creative ADD. Because if I made the same kind of thing all the time, I would get so bored with me. So having different things to interact with, having different music, having the boxers to work with, they were amazing. Having, Dessa, an artist like that to kind of drive me with her text and the rhythms. These are the things that I feel like give me the inspiration to keep on going. I've made, I think, around 100 ballets now. And it's how do you stay fresh all the time? And it's giving myself those different challenges that keeps it vital, I think.
We've had a lot of different collaborations, particularly with live musicians joining us. That's another element that we are so fortunate to have so many people willing to share the stage with us and be part of a creative process that's re-envisioning and breathing some different new life into their work. Just recently, off the top of my head, the On Trio, a sister-powered group of 3 Juilliard grads who have a global presence, a violinist, cellist, and pianist. That was a really special collaboration. Martin Dosh, a local percussionist and keyboardist here in the cities, brought, I think that was the same boxing ballet that you referenced, Teresa. Linnea Moan is someone I personally got to work with last fall, a vocalist and keyboardist. We have regularly performed with the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra and other musicians that regularly perform with the Minnesota Orchestra. Coming up for our performances in the Twin Cities, if things go as planned this fall, we were so thankful we could reschedule our performances we didn't get to this spring. But we'll be performing with, James, maybe you want to talk about your sister, Laura, who is an accomplished cellist. She will be performing with us live in the Twin Cities here.
Yeah, it's always great. Nepotism is so great when you have wonderful musicians in your family. My father's a violinist, my sister's a cellist. I grew up playing music, and I think that musical background, I was a violinist, helped me be able to collaborate with musicians, particularly, when I worked with the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra doing a score of Schoenberg. Had I not been able to read that score and really understand that music, I don't know how we would have been able to do it. So I feel fortunate to have been able to grow up with that and be able to then bring it to bear on the work. But also, growing up, I did gymnastics, I did skateboarding, different things like that. So when Nikki, Eve mentioned earlier the piece with the hula hoop, when dancers come into the company, I say, hey, what other skills do you have? What tricks do you do? Do you yo-yo well? Do you juggle? Do you do a hula hoop? I saw Nikki just kind of playing around when we were, in the summer one day. She had a hula hoop. She was just kind of practicing some things, and it was beautiful. Like, well, of course, we have to put this in a ballet. It's just everything to me is an opportunity. If it's beautiful and interesting, I'll look for a way to integrate it into something that we're doing because it can be delightful. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, this brings up another question. I know we've talked a lot about musical collaborators, but you also collaborate with a lot of other creatives to make these ballets possible. So one question would be, who does the lighting design? And then also we touched on costumes. So how do you go about pulling together a creative team for each particular ballet?
That's a wonderful question. The lighting, we've worked with a number of lighting designers over the years. Kevin Jones, for so many years, he's at O'Shaughnessy Auditorium as our technical director and lighting designer. And lately we've been working with Garvin
Jellison.
And a number of different, wonderful artists. That is something I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to do it. I kind of, I'll have a vision sometimes for what I think the lighting should be, but these wonderful artists, they know how to take an idea I have and turn it into something that makes magic on the stage. And I'm so grateful to those artists who can do that. And I can be inspired, but I can never execute it. So everybody has their medium, and I'm lucky to work with others. And you mentioned the costumes. Now, when we have a ballet, sometimes, again, I'll have a specific idea, or that the ballet will dictate a certain type of costume that it needs. But oftentimes, I'm coming from really just a place of movement that I want to do, move with music. And it's not the first place my brain goes in thinking about what they're going to wear necessarily. Not one of my great strengths. So I need to get people in there who do have that great strength. So once we're sort of usually partway through it, where I have something to kind of work with, I'll have a costume designer come in and look at the piece, however much we have, and we'll talk about it and the feeling, and they'll listen to music and talk about what it maybe needs. If there's a lot of partnering, you have to be aware, is there loose stuff that the arms could get caught in that you could, are they going to rip if you do it? Is it something that we need to see the silhouette in a particular way of the form? So there's certain things we kind of talk about those, then they'll go away. And my favorite costume designers are the ones that come back with something that I never would have thought of. I'm like, what? But it's like, yeah, I love being surprised. And sometimes it's won't work, but more often than not, I love the interjection of a different energy, a different idea, and then I start playing with that. Then it starts to influence me, and you get this creative feedback loop that, to me, takes the whole thing up to a level that it would not have gotten to by itself. If I just did it myself, I hope it would be good, but it wouldn't be as good as it is when I'm able to collaborate with these other artists. In particular, that's the way I'm working with the dancers. I don't just tell them everything to do. And that is, again, the tradition of ballet, is the choreographer would tell the dancer absolutely every head, every hand. The choreographers I worked with in New York mostly were that way, that I never had an idea. They weren't open to my ideas, even if I had them. And, everything I did was completely prescribed by them. And I can do that, and I've made ballets like that, but I find it much more interesting to be working with the dancers and getting, what their bodies feel good doing, giving ideas, and they come back with something else, and suddenly then I sculpt it into this, or some accident happens, it goes completely wrong, and now that's the right thing because it looked perfect. Serendipity is my best friend in the creative process. So, we're just always, if it's a good idea, if a dancer has a great idea, a good idea is a good idea. I don't care where it comes from. If it makes the piece better, we'll use it.
Well, that brings a question for Eve. How would you talk about your transition from, well, you're still a dancer with the company, but transitioning from just being a dancer and working with James as a dancer to now being artistic associate, and how your knowledge of the company informs your work as an artistic associate as well?
It's felt like a natural progression. And I think in part because, well, I guess it's been 11 years now, right? Doing this work, and also being a part of a process that is really empowering, and it's dancers are expected to be contributing outward just as much as they are like taking in and fusing direction from James or whoever's leading the front of the room. We are activated artists, and there's always been a culture of encouraging people to take other projects as a dancer or a choreographer or a teacher. On the road, we all participate in master classes and are able to wear multiple hats and switch deftly between them. And that's something that's just been part of my journey the whole way. And so now, wearing a different cap that has more at the front of the room has felt pretty intuitive and like the right thing to do, just a progression.
It's been great to have Eve growing in this team. It's really, wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, I think that brings us to a good point to wrap up. Just want to show quick, lots of appreciation for the arm jive, incredibly cool. And just general thanks from our watchers, and thank you all for watching us. Any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, I hope people enjoyed watching the things, in this way. And I hope if you're, in the area when we have our performance there, please come see it live. It's so wonderful that we're all diving deeper into this digital medium and finding ways to connect. But dance is one of those live performances that you feel the energy in the room in a way with the music that I hope we can share it with people in that spirit as well in the near future.
Our most high def platform is live performance.
Absolutely. It's so nice to see some of our local audience in the comments today, but we do miss you all so very, very much. So stay tuned. You can always find information about our activities at pagetheater.org. And then you can also learn more about James Sewell Ballet at jsballet.org as well. I would like to thank you once again for joining us this evening. We'll also be sending a survey if you registered, and Caitlin, if you're watching, would you mind putting that in the comments as well right now? And one more reminder, as part of our Driftless Dance Festival, we will have one more activity, which is going to be tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock. We are streaming our Winona Dance Showcase, which is a collection of dance performances from very talented artists from, I believe, middle school all the way through full adulthood and to professional artists, all put together thanks to their generosity of sharing their work and our ability to stitch things together and just get it to you. But we're really looking forward to sharing some of our local talent with you all as well tomorrow afternoon. So that's 3 o'clock, and stay tuned. We'll be streaming that as well. We'll give you more information. And Eve, yes.
I have a question. Yeah. Did you plant this, or you have a JSB poster behind you? Do you know?
So I was going to mention that earlier. Thank you. That poster has been there since actually before I came. When I moved into this office, the JSB poster was there, and I look at it every day. I'm actually backwards right now. Usually I sit the other side of the desk, but it was a better view this way. So it's nice. I've been staring at your lovely poster for 5 years, and now we've been able to at least make it happen. So hopefully there's more to come in the future as well.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, take care, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye.